Welcome to another night of Comics and Chaos. Is the comic market tanking?
Tough to tell, but I think we can find out tonight.
Let's find out. Let's find out. And we're back and we're live. Holy crap.
We are live. Welcome, guys. Another Sunday, Comics and Chaos. Phil, Theo, how are you guys?
Good to see everybody making it in. Good to see you, brother. Hope you've been having a good day. It's a great day. We got a lot of friends in today, right? We're getting joined by some big members of our community, people like a lot of trust out there with these members. And luckily, two of them actually are going to be gracing us with their presence this evening, right?
I think we have them backstage right now. Yeah, you ready to bring them on?
I think we do. Yeah, let's bring out first Ali with Elite Comics 11. Ali, welcome to Comics and Chaos.
How are you, sir?
Bill, Theo, what's up, guys?
Welcome.
How are you?
Welcome.
We're good. How are you, man?
Joining us. Welcome to the dark side.
Good, man. Sunday, football, comics. Let's do it.
Right.
What else?
So tell us, for anybody that's meeting you for the first time, Ali, could you just tell us briefly about Elite Comics 11?
Sure. So I'm Elite. I own Elite Comics 11 on Instagram. That's Instagram's largest consignment page. So years and years of track record, trusted. We help people buy and sell comics. We have live sales pretty much every day, and lots of special events as well. So just an awesome community on there. Really good really good option for people to buy and sell comics. So we definitely have our, we have our hands on the pulse of the comic industry, at least as far as sales go, especially. So.
Absolutely, man. And thank you for joining, obviously. And next, we also have who else, Theo?
Let's bring him on in. We have Matt from CovrPrice. Welcome in,
Matt.
Hello, guys.
How are you?
How's it going, man? Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
So, Matt, for anybody unfamiliar as well with CovrPrice, could you give us a little bit of background on what CovrPrice is?
Sure. So we are a website. People call it an app, but it is very mobile friendly. We don't have an app yet, but we track, we track our collection. So we actually pull in live sales that are to the day. Updates about 4 times a day. So they're pretty fresh sales. We bring in both raw and graded. Raw is kind of the thing that we do differently than a lot of our competitors, which is the majority of the market and probably the majority of your collection. And it's the hardest to track. And it gives us nightmares every single day. I can't tell you how hard it is to track raw sales, but we're figuring it out. And it's nice because we're kind of like the only place to go for historical raw sales now, which is kind of fun. So basically you put your collection in and it works like kind of like a stock market where you see your books rise and fall in value, your whole collection rise and fall in value. It's just a fun way. You see what's trending with the movers and the shakers, and we do a top 10, and we do a market report, and we have a couple shows with Very Gary, Lords of the Long Box, Near Nirvana. We sponsor that show.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're try to spread out a little bit, but yeah, we're growing.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, with both of the gentlemen that we have here this evening, we're going to be very respectful of their time and your time this evening, because this is going to be a power hour. Not a 2 to 3 hour. This is going to be a singular power hour. So we are going to be.
We're not going to do what we did to you guys last weekend. We promise.
We promise. Even we were thinking at the end, we're just like, wow, we're still going. I think that was our shortest episode too, and it was like an hour and 57 minutes. So
we're definitely going to keep this one in the 60 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Okay, and by the way, friendly disclaimer, chat, we will try our best to get all of the questions that you guys ask in the chat. We already have some preloaded questions submitted by members of the community, so we're going to get into that. Phil, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, let's take the first one.
Let's flip a coin, or
let's jump right into it. We'll actually go first. We'll go first with Matt, since we brought him in last, and then we'll go to Ollie with this same question. Okay. Sure. So I'm going to put it up for everyone to see. Let's take a look here. All right. Is this Armageddon and the comic market is doomed to fall further, or do you see this as market correction and that other upswings are on the way? Matt, I'll let you take that one first.
It's fun because we actually have data to support these questions. It's kind of interesting. We actually pulled 2023's numbers, compared them to 2022, and the same number sold, but for more money in 2023. So the same amount of books were moving as 2022, but for larger amounts. That means bigger books were selling for the most part. Now, granted, there was still a bigger boom in the beginning of 2022, but still, like November to November's numbers were pretty on par with last year's. And so people have this big perspective that everything's falling. And that comes from, right now, I call it, we're in the eye of the hurricane of speculation and comic book prices. And that's because for the last, I think, 6 years, we've had all this momentum around Marvel content specifically, especially over the past 3 to 4 years. It's been huge. Right. Phase 5, we have little to go on, right? Except that we know mutants are coming, Fantastic Four. There's some loose stuff here and there, but we know that we didn't get a lot to go on. There's not a lot to speculate on. There's not a lot to buy. So the next 6 months, we have the DCU slate's going to come out, and then all this slew of Marvel announcements. I think we're going to see more books moving for higher prices in the next 6 months than we've ever had before, because we didn't have DC in the game the last 5 years, and now we're going to have them. I mean, I'm hearing stuff about Green Lantern. I'm hearing Jessica Cruz is someone to chase down. These are all the things that are coming across our plate. I think right now it's just a quiet time, and it's a great time to buy. And if people aren't, I think they're missing out. Now, there's general rules of like content speculation is notorious for rising and falling, and it's acted the way it's always acted, but we're just seeing, because we're in the eye of the storm, everything is down, right? Yeah. Where it used to be like, okay, Eternals is down because that movie just came up, but now we're specking on Doctor Strange and the multiverse, right? And for 6 months, all those books are spiking. So you're kind of going along this roller coaster. Right now, we're getting on the ride, essentially. But awesome. That's kind of our insight. We don't see. Books are still selling. Nostalgia books are selling like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that, and to piggyback off what you said with the Phase 5, I think a big issue is that not a lot of the stuff that's been coming out the past, I want to say, year and a half has been like well received with the public. So I think that has a big impact on people buying. They're not going to go buy something, for example, like a She-Hulk, if they don't like how that show was portrayed or it didn't touch them like all the other projects have in the past. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was telling Phil when we were talking before that the first film that really got a boom in speculation was Civil War, because every film before that, you're like, you can't spec on the first appearance of Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and you can't. Those books were already expensive. But when Civil War came around, people were buying up sets of Civil War 1 through 6. I think it was 6 issues, right? And then Spider-Man, that's when Spider-Man books started just going crazy, because that was his introduction to the MCU. Right. And that's really what lit a fire under Marvel content speculation. And for the past year, I was disappointed in a lot of content. There were probably only a handful of things that I even enjoyed, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be excited for what's coming up. And especially if they're being a little more laser focused and being mindful of what people's thoughts were. Even Kevin Feige said he was just spread too thin, and he felt that in the past year.
Yeah. Ollie.
Go for it.
Ollie, what are your thoughts on that question, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Armageddon. There's definitely there's been a correction on our page. We're constantly posting, Silver Age Grails, Golden Age Grails, like huge books, and then some minor keys as well. I think it's pretty simple, actually. It's a lot. It's supply and demand. It's always supply and demand. We lost some demand. I mean, that comes in several different forms. Like, most importantly, at least for this purpose, I think, is people for a while, like during the pandemic boom, at least the height of it, like people were just buying that kind of, they weren't even putting much thought into it. It was just whatever you bought, it's going to go up 20 to 30% every 2 months. So just keep buying, buy anything, buy whatever you felt like that day, and it's going to look fine in 2 months. And that's not healthy. Like, that's not healthy for like the industry, because the reality is a comic book can only go up that much so many times before it just doesn't really work, because not everything can go up that much forever. So the people that got into it just to buy something, hold it for 2 months, get some crazy return, it's not, there's question marks about that approach now. It's not working out very well. So a lot of them have left the market completely, or some people, they're not buying that other book that they would have bought if they felt like everything was going to go up 20 to 30% every 2 months. So that's less demand. That's what we're dealing with, I think. So in other words, people still want the fundamental grails. You notice it. The prices have come down because there's less people buying them, at least as of, recently. But there is a bounce back. Like, people are buying back in. Like, these are not going to zero. There's definitely resistance in the price drop. So that's what I'm seeing. People still want the books. I think Matt, I agree with Matt's point about people still buying this stuff. Just it's less money right now, and a lot of people are looking at that as a great opportunity to get back in. So
and Ollie, like you're probably still seeing rare variants still go for a premium, right? Like, those aren't dipping in price, at least what we've noticed. Like, the rare stuff is still selling for top dollar.
Yeah, I mean, people. Well, yeah, we primarily deal with vintage books, but we definitely have like variants as well. They come up, and there's still a lot of hype around that. But I think people are just a lot more thoughtful about what they're gonna do. I mean, again, the variant, every segment of the market was affected by people just hopping on, picking up anything and everything, getting a quick return, and that unhealthy habit is something that the industry is kind of dealing with right now, because it's stopped. Like, people are being more thoughtful about what are they actually going to put their money in.
It's interesting that you're saying that, because like we've noticed, just as a collector myself, that how the market's changed the most in the past 5 years, not only just 10 years, is no one has any patience anymore to let a book grow in value. So now it's like you buy a book and you expect it to be literally the second after you buy it to be selling for a double, triple the value. And when it's not doing that, it's looked as a failure. Now, I mean, we report every day, all day, on variants that had a print run of 1,500, 1,000, 500 from 10, 15 years ago, and they're ghosts. And they're super valuable. And it's just because, and like today, print runs are kind of crazy low. Like, some are going for, print runs of 50 copies, 100 copies, especially metals and whatever. Right now, you're not going to see, if people just have patience, it's just like a habit we used to have as collectors. You would buy it and tuck it away for 15, 20 years, right? And then hope that, you maybe double or triple your money. That's just what you did with a collection. You bought something you liked and you let it sit. I think that train of thought has to change a little bit. It still happens. Like, I mean, there were a bunch of books that sold recently, like a lot of 8 Billion Genies, and I'm trying to think. Oh, the M&M variants. Those were a perfect example of literally seconds after people bought them, they're selling for thousands of dollars.
Oh, like immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately. And so there's
me and Phil had this conversation earlier too, to piggyback off what Ali said with the supply and demand. I mean, I think the CGC submissions doubled from last year to this year.
Sure.
So not only do you have, everybody selling now, but you have a lot of supply and not a lot of demand. So
that was one of the points we had. So we do we take our top 10 and we do a reflective look back on it. So we go, let's look at our top 10 list from a year ago and 3 years ago, just to kind of see how the market did. And that's on Gary's channel. And it was interesting, for the 1 year ago, we looked back at Moon Knight, because a year ago we were looking at I think the Moon Knight trailer just hit for the first time, right? And you had Arthur Harrow's first appearance and only appearance going nuts, right? And you had the first appearance of Khonshu and Moon Knight's first solo. All those books are going like crazy. And to your point, the demand was outpacing the supply, right? And it was hitting the Moon Knight one was hitting $1,000 in a 9.8. It now sells for $300 today,
Yeah.
And that's because once the show was done, the supply started outweighing the demand, and the demand, brought down that price. And that's just how books work post content. It's not unusual. And if you believe in a character like Moon Knight, you see it as an opportunity to buy in. Arthur Harrow, he's dead, right? That's a terrible book to buy into. But
Yeah. Maybe. Agreed. So, Ollie, I'm going to take this over to you first. Do you feel like the market is oversaturated? What do you think about market saturation? Is that an issue currently with the market?
Well, it is, because it always comes down to supply and demand. So there's, again, there's still some bad habits that need to be broken. And that's like, not every variant's going to take off. And, you send them all out to get graded and you flood the market with a bunch coming back at the same time. And there's not enough people that want that. That's bad. That's gonna, I mean, it's not going to make people feel comfortable about doing things that they otherwise would be, or that they have been comfortable. And that's like, just pick up the new variant. They're going to think twice, maybe 3 times about it. So yeah, it's definitely, I mean, you never want supply just sitting out there, because the price comes down. But you also, I just want to say, like, this is not doom and gloom. It's healthy. It's like, not every book should be graded. Again, people can do whatever they want, but from an economic business standpoint, like, not every book should be graded. Like, you shouldn't invest, in grading.
Somebody shares your opinion.
Book. Yeah. I mean, it is a problem when people think, again, they just want to run through the motions, like they have been successfully for the past few years, send it out to get graded. When it comes back, it's going to be worth X more than it was, no matter what it was. Well, that's not true anymore.
Yeah. I mean, to that point, to stuff being saturated, and shout out to Jim at comicbook.com there. What we noticed, there's a big saturation of variants. So that's kind of one problem, is that there's so many variants right now that it snuffs the rest out, right? This is a perfect example, was Stray Dogs Dog Days, right? Stray Dogs first series was a hugely popular series. All those variants were selling for, some of the rare stuff, $300, $500, $600 in some cases, right? And everyone was collecting them, and they wanted them, and the whole series was hot. The second prints, the third prints. Then they had Stray Dogs Dog Days, and there were 75 variants for that book. And it literally, and they were selling for, the buy-in was $40 a set, in a lot of cases, $40, $50 a set. You can't keep up with that. And what it did was it completely destroyed the Stray Dogs market completely, because all those that were collecting it said, I can't keep up, I'm out, right? And they just stopped buying, and no one else was buying in, because it was just there was too much. It saturated even the first series. So there is danger, just as a publisher and a creator, of being mindful, even though that upfront money was really nice, right? You sell 75 variants, that's a huge cash day for that creator. But it literally tanked that book. And I mean, that's the danger of too many variants. And it's a shame, because the series is fantastic. I'm sure it's still going to be alive in some capacity, but there was just in a market.
Right. You just don't see too much of it nowadays. Yeah.
And it's just a lot of people. I mean, I've seen on the, not to shout out to whatnot, but there is that. I do see some of that complaint on those stuff. There's just too many variants for those one issues, and it's hard for people to keep up on it. It's definitely a case of buy what you like, but how can any of them really do well when there's so many of them?
And I think that brings up a question too. And Theo and I have had this.
I was
debate.
just gonna highlight it.
Yeah, like
yeah.
We've
I was like, well,
we've had this debate. And this isn't necessarily
everybody can answer. Yeah.
This isn't just whatnot, but for me, like coming back from New York, I felt like one of the things that really made the New York Comic-Con experience ridiculous was the copious amounts of variants. Every retailer had 15. Every whatnot seller had 5. Everybody was, Theo wasn't, but I was there with them. But at the same time though, like everybody had a variant, and there was just so many of them. There was nothing there to actually be excited about, because there was nothing to pay any attention to. Everybody was shoving a different variant in your face. And for me, the oversaturation was honestly feeling like every single person that had been buying comics for the last 2 years until about 6 months ago, all of a sudden became a seller. And when they became a seller online, all of a sudden they're like, and I need a variant like so-and-so has, and I want to get one of these variants. I'm going to get one of these variants. And they just everything, well, in my opinion. And that's going to make some enemies. And I apologize, but that was what New York. I remember looking at Theo. I'm just like, how the hell are we going to even like know where to go, dude? He was like, it was pandemonium because there's so much there. And that's
why I remember we eventually settled on if it was an artist that we liked, a character that we messed with, or a story that we respected. I mean, really, that's what it came down to.
And a shop that we could stand behind.
I think right now we're in more of like a collecting market. I know this is kind of like a double-edged sword on the question here, but I think that people are buying what they want. And somebody earlier said this is where is it? Bam, right there. I can't say I don't like that, but I can't argue that. I think we are. I think we are. I think we're in an era where people are starting to collect the things that they really like. Some people like variants. Some people like vintage books. And I just think that that's where we're at right now.
Well, we did. So 3 years ago, pre-COVID, you could go to San Diego Comic-Con, buy a bunch of variants, and pay for your trip. That's what a lot of people did. They would go to this, they buy exclusives. I mean, any convention, any big convention at least, that had really big variants. But now, like to your point, at New York Comic-Con, we tracked all the quote the hottest variants of the con. Only I think 2 were selling for more than what they cost, more than what the buy-in was. And even at the convention, I was, to what you were saying, Theo, I only bought the covers that I really liked. I bought like a cover with a shredder on the front. It was, I forget what book it was. It's like, but then I bought that foil Batman Beyond, and they weren't books that I wasn't expecting them to do anything. They're just covers that I liked, right? And to your point, like I really reverted at the convention of just not chasing down the variants, of just buying the ones I wanted to keep, and then just stopping there. And I think that change is happening, because the people that are buying to sell are getting burned out quick because their money is getting swallowed up. And if you're doing the flip game, it's a hard flip game right now.
Yeah, but
what do you think, Ali? What are you seeing at Elite?
Yeah.
Well, just on that point, like what you're describing, just as somebody who's not, I'm definitely in the modern variant business, but not to the extent as some other people. But I just want to kind of put the perspective out there that what you guys are describing is actually very healthy.
Yeah.
You had a flooded market, everybody just trying to do the same exact thing. And ultimately, the only ones that were successful are people that put something out that was thoughtful, or actually that the market wanted. Yeah. So I hate to, it basically.
Hey man, this is what it's for, dude. This conversation, brother.
Consequence of like just throwing stuff out there. I mean, it's good that happened, because then people will just think more about what they want to put out there and also what they want to buy. Sure. And if you guys have noticed, you guys are mostly just talking about people picking things up and then they want to sell them again. So like we're talking about flippers, like that's what we're talking about. Like no one's really talking about collectors yet on this stream. So those collectors, they want to pick this up, they want to put it away. And like these forces we're talking about, it has just been making them have to pay more money to pick this stuff up. So it's good for them too that there's been.
Hey, and Ali, look, there you go. Bam. There you go, Ken. Yeah, when you buy what you want, you keep it, and you ain't losing any money. So,
and I there you go. That's definitely how it goes. I think everyone's mindful of what things are selling for. That's kind of my point. Is when you're looking at market prices, is like you kind of want to buy something that you like, but at least it's not like you're going to bottom out. Like that, you don't want to buy a $100 variant and know that it went down to 50. 2 weeks later. So I'm just trying to say, like, people still are mindful of market prices, which is why we exist.
100%. Like that's collecting, right? Like you even if you're not intending to turn around and flip it, people have the collecting bug mostly because they think they're going to pick up something they really enjoy, and of course they're expecting some sort of appreciation over time. So that's true.
And we tell people all the time that like even though let's say you pick up a variant for $20 and selling for $120, people get excited that that book is worth that much, but that doesn't mean they sell it. But it becomes a little more special to them, It moves up to their wall, right? It moves from their box to the wall. Because people like to flex a little bit, like, hey, I was able to get one of these.
So we are 30 minutes in on question 2. So I'm going to move us to the next one real quick.
Well, I wanted to touch on one thing on that question before we get rid of it. I don't think that it helps or hurts comic prices because the whatnot sales aren't reported to GPA, Heritage, Key Collector, CovrPrice. So honestly, I don't think it really does anything. But
we keep asking Chancellor, and we're like, "Can you send us sales?" And they're like,
they don't have
it. One day.
They're not sending it. Maybe,
So.
One day.
So next question, is this COVID isolation and money correction, or is this bursting of a speculation bubble in your opinion? And we'll go with Ali first on this one.
So no bursting, it's a correction. And again, just it's demand. Like demand has lessened. Supply, especially in vintage books, which we mostly deal in, I mean, it's not really changing. So it's demand. I mean, demand has changed. Just there's less just pure investors or flippers, whatever you want to call them. A lot of those people have left altogether, or they've really scaled back. So that's what you're seeing. Prices come down, but it is very healthy to also see people still want an AF-15. People still want an X-Men 1. They don't go to zero. Like there's definitely a rebound. Like there's resistance at a certain price point. People are going to pick it up. So the sales are still happening, and we're seeing a lot of that, especially recently. But you got to look at this. It's unfair to look at comics without looking at it through the scope of the broader economic situation in at least this country, if not the world. I think it's more like the world. It's a funny economic time right now. So a lot of people lost disposable income. So they don't have, they can't be the collector that they want to be right now. And, that's something that you can't be ignored. Like there's real life stuff, even for people that are just collectors and just casually buying comics. So
those COVID checks aren't just continuing to come in the mail and still, right? So,
I mean, I know that during the pandemic, there were a lot of people that probably just thought, oh my gosh, I'm getting rich. He's getting rich. Everyone's going to get rich. The entire global economic system doesn't work if everybody gets rich. It doesn't work like that.
And to that point, during that time frame was the Marvel boom, because that's when all the TV stuff was starting, right? So right during that time, there was a big boom of speculation right during when everything shut down. So it was, it's also, you kind of have to keep that in mind. Like, I mean, for us, the biggest boom was Miles, right? Like his book specifically during COVID went from $100 raw to a $700 raw and $2,500 and a 9.8. But that was a lot of factors. That was still content driven rumors.
Which I'm still kicking myself for not picking up a copy when it went to $9.50 on a 9.8.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there, though. I mean, you can't see a single auction nowadays like at Heritage that doesn't have like one of the rarer variants versions of it. I mean, it to me, in my mind, those Miles books are, cool, but we're getting more and more on census all the time. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where things are 10 years from now when we finally hopefully get them live by then.
And shout out to Manu. He actually asked a question on that. Ali or Matt, if either one of you guys have an opinion on that.
Which question? The Ultimate Fallout 4 variant?
1 in 25.
Yeah. Well, I can speak to this one because I think we've sold about 4 of them probably in the last 2 months, if not more. But I mean, Miles, what a character. I mean, that IP destined to be around for a long, long time. Problem with the regular is that there's a ton of them, right? So that variant, I mean, it does like raise your eye a bit. You're like, wow, that book's actually performing really well, this rare variant in a 9.8 specifically. But then when you think about, well, how many people out there and how many, even the next generation that probably hasn't even been born yet, Miles is probably going to be more relatable to them than Peter Parker, right? So you want to get the rarest version of that IP. So I'm not too surprised that that book has performed so well. Honestly, it's performed a little bit better than I would think it would, but I'll tell you, people are definitely after that book.
Yeah.
Well, then I think it holds to the value of it because that is the appearance of him in his new costume. Mm-hmm. So that's when a variant becomes worth more than a lot of other variants, is when there's something key related to that, like a first appearance, like first outfit, something, So it definitely has that going.
Fallout 4. I mean, yeah, you mean it's his first appearance, right?
Well,
it's his first appearance, but on top of that, the variant is also his first appearance, but also his first time appearing in his new
like
in his
Miles
actual full costume,
yeah.
not holding a not like holding a mask.
Spider-Man
having his his head not revealed. Yeah.
So what are you thinking, Matt? What are you thinking?
No, I agree. I mean, we did our year-end wrap-up, right? Of the biggest variants of the year. And I think there was 2 recent sales, both for Amazing Spider-Man 667, right? The Delato, the 1 in 100, a super rare book. Mm-hmm. That's still the king of modern variants, but Miles is literally like $1,000 behind it for that 1 in 25. And we haven't even hit live action content. Like, live action, I wouldn't be surprised if that book jumped to 70. Like, I think if you want to make an easy 10 grand, like buying in at 50s, not a bad idea. But you got to have 50 grand, right?
Yeah. That's, just go get a mortgage real quick, folks.
I'm
be right back.
Super cheap, and I don't think I've ever spent more than like $500 on a comic, because
I'm jealous.
I'm a hunter. I like to find my books in the wild. But
yeah, me too. There's just some, I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna find that in a short box, like.
No, well, what's funny is that before it got crazy, I think it was 2017, maybe 2016. The store Five Below were selling packs of comics, right? And they had that variant in all those packs of comics. It was like the Silk variant and that 1 in 25 Ultimate Fallout 4 were in these.
Oh my god! At Five Below
for $10. Yeah, you bought the stack for like $10. And people were posting them all over the place, and then pressing them, and so a lot of people who chased those, back then and held on, there were people who had like 10 copies.
Oh my god!
But a lot of people sold them when they hit 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, because you're like, well, that can't get any higher, right?
And here we are.
Even so, yeah, when this book really started going, like, first of all, people had the regular one just sitting around in poly bags, like $100. You couldn't even get $100 for it, and then it starts hitting the $3,000-$4,000 mark in a 9.8, and people start grading them, and then a bunch of them come back like a few months later because people see it's getting hot. But like the variant, it's like, I mean, I remember specifically, I'm not going to mention names, but there were people that were touting it as like the next best thing, and they were just ridiculed and laughed at when they were trying to get like $4,000 for a 9.8 in the variant.
Right.
Yeah. People were just like, "You're nuts."
People were making memes about them.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it was that infamous picture of someone who had like 100 copies, right? Like all spread out on one table. That picture was circulating for a while, and now it pops up, and it's kind of like, oh, to be that person, you know?
Yeah.
But this is like we constantly tell people to get out and dig, because that book did have a high print run, and if you're finding someone who hasn't sold a collection in the past 2-3 years, that book is in there, you know. I mean, it's a pretty easy book to come across, but you got to get out there and dig. You're not going to just find it online. You're not going to get a deal online anymore. But they're out there.
So Matt, we'll let you take this one first. Is now a good time to buy, sell, or trade?
It depends on the book, like, and it depends what you want. So, like what Ollie was saying, like right now, pre-code horror, right? Like you're probably seeing huge spikes on that stuff. That's a train that's just moving faster than anything. I mean, you're talking, it's jumping. These books are jumping 10 grand every couple 6 months or so. You know, so that, you know, if you can find, you know, some of these bigger artists for pre-code horror, those are great books to buy in. I'm always open to trading, because if there's a book that I want and I want to hold on, you know, trading's a great idea. It's such a big question to answer. It's so dependent on what the book is. If it's content related, you know, you gotta like be ahead of the game and try to guess what character is going to pop up that hasn't been announced yet, right? Because that's when you're going to see those jumps. If you believe in a character is going to have a lot of visibility in the Marvel universe, then now's a great time to buy some of those books. Like we touched upon She-Hulk, Moon Knight, their books are at an all-time low. Except for maybe Moon Knight's first appearance. That book is one of those elite books that just, you know, sell for a premium forever. But nostalgia based, I think anything nostalgia based, especially from the 80s and 90s, Power Rangers are up. Things like Care Bears, Muppet Babies. I mean, we're seeing spikes in anything from the 80s and 90s that was content related. All their books are going.
Some of it deserves it, though. I mean, Darkwing Duck, Gargoyles, Power
that's
Rangers,
the point. I mean, these are things that we loved, right? People want a visual representation on their wall of the things they loved as kids, right? Yep. So if you really want to have you speculate on what was hot in late 90s, early 2000s, because that's where we're going, right?
They're getting a reunion show or a flashback movie or something like Biker Mice from Mars, Jim. Go
find that Friends comic, right? You know, I'm sure there is one.
What about you, Ollie? What are you thinking?
Really, as long as you love it, right? Yeah, what do you think,
absolutely.
Ollie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who you are. I mean, if you're a collector and it's always a good time to pick up things that you really enjoy. I mean, but if you're taking into account, again, these concepts of so-called investment, like, then you really gotta, I mean, I would just caution people, like, listen, don't pick things up if you actually need them to give you 20 to 30% in 2 months, because that's probably not happening anymore.
You gotta let it stew.
Like, so, you know, if you want to buy back in on a fundamental grail, I think it's a great time. If you want to buy in, like Matt was talking about, there's a lot of excitement and untapped potential in like the DC properties, or we were talking about Miles. We haven't seen the full extent of that IP on the big screen or whatever. Like, listen, it's an opportunity. You can buy those books right now. They were already depressed, and now they're even more depressed. You could invest in those things, and I'm not saying I know what's going to happen a few months from now, but years from now, I think it'll be just fine. I think the people that need to use the most caution are people that absolutely need some kind of quick return. Like those people, you know, they should definitely use caution. I mean, make sure you take care of your real life stuff too.
This is a crock pot, not an Instapot kind of situation right now.
That goes back to digging, like getting out and digging for comics. You could buy books for like $1, $5, $10, and you can sit on that for years without it, without having to worry about it. But you really got to go to the books at the bottom of tables at conventions, and you got to get those dusty fingers and put in a little time digging.
Get a little paper cut between the ones that don't have the actual top done.
Exactly. Daniel had a good point though. Visibility doesn't always help. Look at Why the Last Man and Paper Girls. Absolutely true. Like if it's non-DC and Marvel, there's only 2 shows that still hold value post content release: Walking Dead and The Boys. Everything else has gone down. Even Umbrella Academy came back a second season.
How about Invincible?
Okay, Invincible is another one. Well, actually, it's way down.
I think number 1 did go down though.
But it is down where it was though. It is
down.
Invincible.
But Invincible, that's one of my favorite. Like
it was 4K at a 9.8, and now it's at about what is it, 1,500 or something like that.
Yeah, it's dropped about 60-70%.
It's gonna have a little bit of a bounce, but Walking Dead and The Boys are the only things that I've noticed that have held ground content based. Yeah, outside of Marvel, DC, content-based books are terrible investments, but if you can find them for $1, you just got to be ready for when something hits, right? And then sell it. Ideally, if you get it graded, then you get a little bit extra for your for your $1. But it's not a good investment.
So what are you collecting right now, Ali? We'll let you lead that one off. What are you collecting right now?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm using this opportunity to pick up things that don't usually come up. Like some people I mentioned, there's some people that they're dealing with life stuff, so they're actually selling off things that just don't come up, super rare stuff. Like I just recently picked up like the first Mickey Mouse in comics. Like you're not always going to see that.
That's so hard.
That Disney company is totally going down. Yeah, that was a terrible investment.
Yeah, no, I mean, so that opportunities like that, those are the kind of things. I mean, behind me, like just I'm a collector, but I collect my childhood. Like, so Theo, you're not that far off from me. I mean, the properties you mentioned, I mean, I'm interested. Like, you got your Turtles, Thundercats, Nintendo. I collect video games here and there just because. I mean, I need a sealed Mario 3. Yes, I do. Thank you. And I put that away. And then I recently got, and this is another example of something that doesn't always come up. Somebody had the sealed Ninja Turtle sewer layer, like still in the box, the original one.
What?
I remember that.
Yeah, I need to pick that up. So, but on the comics, first Mickey Mouse, and then my keepers are things like like I love Stan and Kirby signatures on the Silver Age Grails. Like that stuff doesn't come up very often, and just I'm focusing on keeping my eyes open for things that aren't usually on the market, but right now they're appearing for whatever reason. So that's what I'm doing.
I mean, cover.
How about you, Matt?
Well, stuff that I'm buying. To your point, like, look, this just came in yesterday, and I have it sitting here. But I have like a Mega Man cover because I'm a huge Mega Man fan, right? And this is This is a hard variant to find, and it's a homage to like X-Men. I forget what X-Men issue.
X-Men 141.
Days of Future Past.
Yep. But I'm a huge Mega fan, and this was super cheap. It's the only 9.8 on the census, but that's not why I bought it. It was the only time I've seen that variant, and you can see like I have a Surf TNC shirt on with the the Nintendo. Like I'm buying the stuff. That's where I kind of change now. Is if I'm buying something online. Like I just bought a bunch of Mega Man stuff. There was a gamer. It was like a gamer insider, and it had a nice Mega Man cover, $10. And we'll see how it comes in. And I'm digging for Nintendo Powers, and that's the stuff I want because not only do I want to like have Nintendo Powers, but I want to read them again. I want to go through them and. I kind of went down a rabbit hole and watching like people going through Nintendo Powers on like YouTube. And like to your point, like I kind of reverted buying the stuff that I loved as a kid. And I mean, I think that is maybe a market shift. That's why I say buy nostalgia, because that's the stuff that people are trying to hunt down for.
Right.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see
How about you, Phil?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I'm still collecting Gen 13 because that was like one of the first comics I got into. I'm still trying to complete that run slowly but surely. Very affordable and definitely not like a long-term investment, I don't think. But it is what makes me happy, right? You know, I get things that really kind of matter to me and my daughter, right? So I'll find characters that she really enjoys that are things that are going to be for her in the future, really. I'm kind of a weird collector. I like to read, so like the big books that are just not going to be in my price range, Marvel app, go online, I do my reading, and I enjoy the stories and I share them that way. And maybe, one day later on in life I'll be able to get those kinds of books, but for me, I'm probably more of a modern guy because it's more affordable to me, right?
Yeah.
So I can go to the shop and get something for cover price and pay $5 for it, and maybe it'll turn into a $20 book, but I only bought one of them. I don't like buy multiples. I'm kind of a cover A and I'm out rule. So it's that's my thing, man. I love indies and I love I love that storytelling. So I'm really into it for the stories right now. I think if there's anything that's really collecting going on, it really depends on if it's something that is of interest of both mine and my daughters. And if that's the case, then I'll look for something because I'll see that as a long-term investment, something between, because we share that, right? So when I'm gone one day and she has that, not only does it have some value itself, but it has a connection as well. So that's what I probably do. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I'm kind of doing the same thing, picking up some stuff I think the kids might like in the future. I've been stocking up on the Disney books for them because that's the only thing I can get my daughters to read. So I'm like, okay, well, here, I'll get you a bunch of Disney books now. And I actually just picked up a where I can't even go get it, but I got like one of those Amazing Fantasy action figures in Elite claim sale I was hosting. I was like, you know what? I kind of want that. I don't have one to go with my book. So yeah, I think I want that now, So I'm just getting kind of weird. I got Pokemon cards the other day in a claim sale too, Charizard VMAX. I'm like, I got 15 base sets. You know what? I want a modern Charizard now. Yep. I still don't have a first edition though, so
Well, it's kind of funny. Even buying for your kids sometimes can work out. Like, I bought my girls a Frozen #1, right? And those sell for $50 raw, like now. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, let's see if you notice if I take it.
They won't let me touch it.
Nope. Right. And like even then, like SpongeBob #1 is $100 book, and like I know a friend who literally bought his kid like the first 10 run and just gave them to him to read, and and the collector in you is like cringing, right? But yeah, get back in the comics.
So we did get some specific questions in advance for each of you guys. So I'm going to pull up this one for Ali first. This first one that came in. Ali, do you see more people messaging you to sell things than you did this time last year? Are there more people messaging Elite Comics to say I want to sell something?
Yeah, I would say selling specifically, yeah, there's a lot more requests. However, there's a lot more people message. However, so on Elite Comics 11, like an extension of like trust is we post books that are supported by sales data like that. So we get a lot more messages, but if somebody is really in love with kind of like the prices from last year or the year before and won't accept like the latest data that's out there and reported, we won't post it. Like that's kind of, I don't want somebody to go on our page, claim something and then find out that our price was just way off, like not even analytical at all. Like, so we get a lot of people interested in selling, but a subset of that actually ends up on the page being listed because, I would hate to be that customer that claims something and then finds out that, you bought it for something for a price that it hasn't sold for in a year and a half. So
Yeah.
So while you're actually here, that's because you brought it up just a little bit too, like, you know, with that elite background, you know, you look at sales data and information like that. This isn't something where somebody just messages you and you're like, yep, on it. How much do you want this? There's things, there's steps, there's things in place. One of the other questions that came in is, what are the steps to actually become an elite seller? Because there's a lot of background and checking that I know you guys do when it comes to buyers, let alone sellers too. Could you give a little background on that?
Yeah, it's relatively simple, at least in the number of steps. First, you know, we're going to want your information. Second, we're going to ask you for some references, because as a company, we 100% back every sale on our page. So at the end of the day, if the seller who's doing a consignment doesn't come through, or the book's damaged or goes missing, like, we have to back it as a company. So I need to feel comfortable about the person that we're working with, the seller. So we do ask for references. If we don't feel great about the references, we offer some options, some kind of payment protection avenue that we could go. But so we're going to need your info. Like, we're going to ask you for references, and then you just need to take like a really nice front picture and back picture of your slab, because we only consign slab books. And then that's pretty much, and then we're going to need your suggested listing price. And then once we have that information from you, we are going to look at the data, and we're going to see if your suggested listing price is supported, and we'll let you know from there. And that's how it goes. So not that many steps, but there's actually, you know, a lot of moving parts in there.
Great information.
One thing I love about, real quick, one thing I love about Elite too, by the way, is I think 99% of the times when I look at a book, it's either right at or below FMV, unless it's like a super duper rare book that just never pops up. You know, and last sale was a year ago, but
yeah,
for the most part, you guys are generally right on it.
We try hard. Again, it's just, you know, because I don't want to do the gotcha. Like, there's people that just claim on our page, and they just expect us to have a fair price. Maybe not always the best price, but a fair price. I just want to at least know that our price was supported. I mean, and trust me, we still get our share of, you're selling that for how much, blah, blah, blah. And my answer to that is like, well, there's a reason why we felt that it was a fair asking price. The best way to fix what you think is a bad asking price is to pull out your own copy and sell it for cheaper. Like, that's, for some reason, I never see people do that.
All right, so we got a couple questions in here for you, Matt.
I appreciate all the love, by the way, Dan, Wires,
and Ollie. I want, if I could get your sales data too, that'd be great.
Oh man, I need, like, can you give me some more time, Matt? Can you give me time? That's what I need.
Man, I've seen Ollie's DMs for like 30 seconds, Matt. You don't want you don't want that smoke, man. Just the way that he has to keep up with it. I saw it for one day because I had to collab post him, and he's just like, "Here you go," and all of a sudden it's like,
yeah. To that point, people were messaging us every whatnot sale, every big whatnot sale. We just get message after message. Oh, this sold for this much, and this, you know, it was just like, we couldn't do it.
Nope. Yeah. Nope. So Matt, for you, we got, what era books do you see as better long-term investments right now?
Well, I mean, if you can afford Golden Age, obviously Golden Age, because that stuff is, I mean, from, let alone the age of it, right? That's one factor. It causes a lot of scarcity. You know, after the, you know, during the war, World War II, there was a paper drive that destroyed a lot of those books. So like, if you can afford anything Golden Age, pre-code horror, any of that stuff, I mean, those are fantastic books to get into, because, I mean, but you got to sit on them for a little bit, right? Some cases you don't. You can write it out for a year, especially if they're pretty well known. But a lot of those are great. I kind of mentioned it, you know, getting into nostalgia-based books. I mean, like, my favorite, RoboCop, one of my favorite characters, he had a huge year this year. His books just suddenly went from nothing to over $1,000 in a 98 for his first appearance, and that's just because people are now buying the stuff that they want. So if you can go through, if you see anything that's kind of the first of any content related, especially from the 80s and 90s. Those are the books to get into, but you have to be mindful that you got to hold them for a while, right? And you got to wait for them to come up. And that's the thing. You got to have patience for a lot of this stuff. If you're looking for instant sales, right now there's nothing that's really doing that insta sale. And until content comes up, content's the only thing, especially Marvel, DC stuff. Those are the only times where you see these surge in prices, where you bought them for $10, now you're selling it for, 150. A lot of you're not going to see that in a lot of stuff, but yeah, Golden Age.
In the next, go ahead. Sorry.
No, Golden Age is, if you can afford it. I'm not buying any Golden Age because I can't afford it. But but if I had money, definitely, like if I could spend willy-nilly, I would buy Pre-Code Horror every day, all day long.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Wish I could get.
So there's a question in here.
Yeah.
What brought about the partnership with CLZ, and how does that work with CovrPrice?
So they had broken up with Go Collect, right? And they were looking, a lot of their users were enjoying seeing price data. Now, Go Collect only tracked CGC sales, so it was only a small amount of their collections, right, that they were seeing. But still, when it went away, they were upset. So CLZ wanted to respond to that and trying to find another partner. And they reached out to us, and we had this initial reaction of like, why would we give our data to a competitor? But once we kind of thought through it a little bit, if we can offer people up, if we can offer that to CLZ users, but they had to become a member of us to get that data on CLZ, then it was kind of a win-win. Like, we got new users, and then we are also giving CLZ an affiliate from that. So like now they're getting an extra source of income that they've never had before. So it was kind of this win-win partnership, and the CLZ members were getting, a lot of those users, they've been in there for like 20 years. Because CLZ has been around for a while. So a lot of those users don't want to go anywhere. Even if we're offering something that, we might offer the same type of product, they just don't want to leave. And so this was kind of that happy medium of being able to provide prices and actually be beneficial to both sides.
Yeah, that makes sense too, especially if somebody uploads their whole collection in there. Nobody's just gonna want
and we do it again. Where you can switch them back and forth. So like you can take your CovrPrice collection and send it to CLZ, and you could take your CLZ collection and send it to us. So you could have it in both. But yeah, so Legion of Paper is like CLZ for life. They have a fantastic collection, a collection site, and they're an app. So we tell people, like, we're constantly asking us for an app. We're like, well, technically we have CLZ now. Like, that's kind of like the app version of what we are. So if you're looking for an app, like, that's where you go. So right now it's fantastic. Yeah.
So as we're getting close to time, and like I said, I want to be respectful. We still have quite a few questions, but we'll cut down to the last couple here real quick. But this is kind of a fun one. Guys, who do you think is going to have a bigger effect on comics in the next year? The DCU announcements or Marvel Phase 5?
Great
you can
question.
only which would you think is going to be the bigger impact on comics in this next year?
If I have to choose one and only one, I'd go DCU, just because it's starting at such a lower baseline. So people are just waiting, like, which characters are going to be featured after.
I like that. Yeah, you can't go anywhere else but up for me.
Yeah, it's like, it's pretty low. I mean, it's again, we do live sales every day. I see what people ask for, and I also see what they buy. And Marvel had been just completely outpacing DC on our shows forever. And lately, you can tell when people want to see those DC books, they're definitely serious about them. So I think they're just trying to speculate which characters are actually going to make the cut and be featured. And once we find out some characters that actually are, like, I think that there's going to be a huge movement there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, Matt?
While I agree with that, right? Like, there's going to be a big spike. A lot of DC books, especially key characters, they're pretty pricey. Like, Ollie will see a big boom because he deals with a lot of those. But I think a lot of in the more affordable category, it's not just going to be Marvel Universe. I'm going to laser in, but X-Men for the Marvel Universe. When X-Men pops in with all the various X characters, I mean, we talk about nostalgia. When you think of any Marvel property over the past 40 years, like for me, it was always X-Men. It was like X-Men and Spider-Man were the books that I had to read and collect, and
nothing else mattered in the 90s.
Nothing mattered in like Wolverine was like, no one was bigger than Wolverine. Everyone wanted to be Wolverine.
Yep. Wolverine and Spider-Man, that was it.
Absolutely. And so when I think of like when the X-Men are announced, they might as well just call it the XCU, right? X-Men.
Because it's gonna
imagine if the first X-Men movie opens up just like the animated show. Just think about it for a second, and looking at that live action with the music, I would probably bawl in the middle of the theater if that was happening. You know?
I know Theo would probably be in a fetal position in tears, just joy. He just die like this right now.
That was the highlight.
Like it took long enough.
Was that 3 seconds of the X-Men theme song at the very last episode, right? The fact that they tapped into that just tells me like that's where they want to go. And Kevin Feige is obviously an X-Men fan. I just think there's so many great X characters. Like I was telling, like I want to see a Jamie Matrix, the Multiple Man series, because like I don't know if you ever read that series. He would send his dupes out and like learn a new skill, and then they would come back and he would absorb it and gain that skill. Like that's a TV show right there, right? Like, and that's just one X-Men. I think, and those books are dirt cheap right now. I mean, you're not going to buy X-Men.
I mean, I appreciate the viewpoint. I love X-Men and Fantastic Four as a kind of an investment play, just because I always say the mouse didn't like write a check for $1 bazillion on those properties not to use them, but X-Men 1, Fantastic Four 1, kind of pricey.
Well, but those are
out. I don't think those have always been
those are off the table. But like Gambit's first appearance is still pretty affordable, especially his quote, real first appearance. If you count the annual, that's still pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Dazzler. I mean, you can name tons of Maggot, Marrow. No, those are the worst ones.
Yeah.
But but
there's just so many X characters. Who knows which way they'll take it? So it does give a large pool to play from. But
honestly, I can see both. They're going to always remain kind of affordable, because I think that we are kind of exiting the era where movies and TV shows have that drastic of an impact on pricing of books.
Absolutely.
Like it may do a little bit of a jump, but it's not going to be how it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, in terms of affordability, the X-Men books. But in terms of if you're looking for big price jumps, I mean, the DC universe has been undervalued for way too long.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see what a lot of those books do.
And I think, and so just kind of one more general point, kind of what we've been talking about. Like, I know I've sort of signed off on this whole like it's healthy and it'll be more gradual now. That's not a sure thing either. Like, it's just gonna matter. Like the market entrants that came in thinking like, oh, I just want to invest in comics. That's the big question mark. When the broader economy works itself out, I mean, they might come back. Like, they might still come back. Like, if they come back, I think they'll have been smarter for seeing how it ended up, but it will also have like a bigger impact than we're anticipating. Like, if they come back and it could be rational for them to come back. We don't know what's going to happen with housing. And like, I know you're talking about comics and housing, but with the big books, people make those decisions. Do I want to buy a house or do I want to buy one of these really big comics? So, the jury's still out. So one thing I learned from the past 3 years is I was especially reminded about how much we don't know. So
for sure.
I just want to say that because I've been wrong for sure. So. But
it's kind of like and hold your books, don't get rid of them, because like I I'm not a heavy speculator anymore. We have to pay attention to the market and know what's happening in the speculation. But I personally am not heavily speculating. But when I did, it was 2014, and it was like, so all my stuff was like, I had a bunch of Spider Gwens and Riri Williams, and all that stuff is now coming back up, and I didn't sell any of it, and I'm glad I did it. And so you never know. I mean, remember when, I don't know if you guys were reading back then, but when Jane Foster took over as Thor and Kamala was introduced,
Mighty Thor line,
people were pissed off that these new characters were, they felt that there was some narrative being pushed on the, Marvel was pushing some diversity narrative, and people were pissed off. And now I can't imagine a Marvel universe without those characters. Well, maybe Jane Foster can come and go, but
right.
Like Kamala, she's earned her place, like in the
there was a lot of hubbub about Kamala joining, and honestly, I still think of her, like when I read, because I read a lot of modern comics, I think of her as probably the most heart and soul of the Avengers, of the Young Avengers. I mean, like she's that one that I don't know if her heart and Biggins too, but she's just that one that seems to always pull people together. So I agree on that. I
still don't like
probably the same people that complained when the X-Men got released. Oh, look at this diversity.
right.
Well, gentlemen, it's been an hour. So before we wrap anything up, I would just like to make sure that we give you guys some main stage, because we are very honored to have you here. I mean, extremely honored to have you here. Your friends, colleagues, it's been a wonderful few years knowing each of you. Tell us a little bit about what is in store in 2023 for each of you, and in this case, I'm going to go to Ollie first, and then I'll come to you next, Matt. But tell us a little bit about Elite in 2023, if you don't mind, Ollie, before we close ourselves out.
So we in 2023, I mean, so we call ourselves, and we're Instagram's #1 community powered comic sales page. So it's that community element. Like, I'm always trying to find new ways to build community and make interactions and experiences better. So we have tons of new live formats coming. We have our AtCon, our virtual comic convention. We're increasing the giveaways we're going to give to the community. The live sales, you're going to see tons of different formats, tons of new faces. And you're also going to see, if you've been watching what we do, you're going to see your favorite faces every month. So, it's going to be Elite Comics 11. I think people that have been watching, they know sort of what to expect, but we're going to keep things fresh, new faces, new formats, ramping up the giveaways for the community. And, that's what you're going to see. And we're just going to focus on being the trusted source for books, whether it's a $20 book or a $40,000 book. If you need help buying or selling comics, DM us at elite_comics11 on Instagram and give us a follow. Just check out what's happening. And, I'm not pressuring anyone to buy anything. Just check it out. And especially the live sales, I think that's something that's very unique.
I think it has one of the coolest chats in all of Instagram, because I don't know how you guys actually run sales on there, because I just I'm usually just looking for the sake of FOMO, but usually in there, every single time you go in, there's like 1,000 waves. You got to wave back the entire time too, and then you've got all the conversations going. I don't know how you guys keep straight faces sometimes, because there's so much banter all the time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But also in 2023 too, like Phil, Rage, like, congratulations on this. And I told you guys before you started, I'm here to support you guys in any way. You guys are doing awesome. So hopefully a few more appearances on here whenever you guys feel like it.
Whenever you feel like slumming with us again.
Thank you, Matt, too. Appreciate you.
No, I want to join this community now, because I want to jump in there.
Definitely, come on in.
You have no idea, Matt. You got to check it out.
And full disclaimer for the chat, I do some hosting for Elite over here, and
Are you one of the familiar
you guys
faces?
know me? You guys know me. I wouldn't be doing that if I didn't fully trust this brand and this individual right there. So, Ali, thank you for what you do.
And Theo, you want to be there if I didn't trust you the way I do. So
there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, Theo, definitely good people.
That's cool.
All right. And Matt, what's coming with CovrPrice in 2023?
I mean, we're here because, like I said, this is my dream job. It's a dream job that I didn't even know I wanted, right? I came from entertainment. And just my best friend and I started this site together. John's my co-partner. And we've been friends since we were 6, right? We all went our different ways in our career, and then we just somehow brought this together and came up with this thing. So it's nice to kind of work with my friend and also build something that we love. Like I tell, this is not just this is 24/7 for me, right? It's just constantly, when I stop writing about comics or entering in sales or cleaning stuff up, I'm there looking through IG and following all these different forums and talking about comics and buying comics. I can't separate the fan out of me, right? So when we built the site, it's definitely from how can we build this to support the community and not take from the community, right? So it's the cost of the subscription's the cost of a comic book. It's like $5 a month if you're doing the year subscription. So and we're trying to bring up new whatever we pull in, all that money just goes to further development, fixing our algorithms, adding new features, hiring people to do things like missing items. And, we're just trying to constantly find new ways to present information to all our users to make them smarter and hopefully more connected to their collections. And just, give them, some inside information of how it's moving. That's the whole point, is you can put in 1,000 books. And I think we calculated, if you were to sit there and track 1,000 books, it'd take you 3 days to track down, if it took a minute per book. I forget what the actual calculation was, but it was you'd spend all day essentially tracking the values. But this is just
right.
5 seconds. You just go in and you can sort through, see what your top trends are. We're adding some new features.
You guys just launched the new comic book day function too, right? Where you could actually add your pull list to things.
Yeah. So previous years, I've always had to do that manually to kind of see what's trending during the week. And it's just researching sales and looking up what came out and kind of looking, manually putting them into a grid and kind of tracking it. Now you could just go to our new release section and sort by most valuable and top trends. And you could kind of see exactly on Wednesday mornings before you go to the shop, just see what's already trending. That way, you won't miss out on a book that you may have overlooked if, the next day. And you're oh, it's gone. I should have bought that variant. It was on my shelf for $25.
Right.
We're doing something that's also kind of come up. So if you have your books in your collection and you have, let's say, a near mint raw, it'll tell you what that goes for in whatever that respective grade in the 9.8. And it'll tell you how much potential there is in getting that book graded. So sometimes it might not be a huge number, but there's plenty of books that we've seen will sell for, $20 near mint, but sell for $600 in a 9.8. It just tells you, it answers that question, what should I grade? A lot of people ask that. That's a popular question in any community. The next question is, I have $100. What should I buy? Hopefully we'll answer that. But that's what we're working on. It's just refining everything that we do already, making our algorithms tighter. One thing that we just fixed is we had a big problem with our first issues where it wasn't recognizing our exclusion terms. So they would constantly get a lot of bad sales mixed in. But now we fixed that. So now everything's getting bucketed correctly,
Awesome.
Just little tiny things where we always tell people it's a better site today than it was yesterday, because we're constantly refining everything that we do. And if sales seem wonky, we're on top of those, and we're trying to figure out a solve to make sure we present the best data to you. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I just want to say thank you again for joining us this evening. It's been an awesome time. Theo.
Yeah. Matt, Ollie, we greatly appreciate you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
And everybody, thank you for joining us. It's been a fantastic chat. We had a great night. We had some great friends here with us. And, we will see you guys here again next weekend.
Oh, and actually, I almost forgot. I actually have 2 books to give away for the chat.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, nice.
That's right. I wanted to make it a late announcement. I didn't want the chat to stick around just for free books. I want people to be here because they wanted to hear these 2 gentlemen. Okay, so I do have a giveaway for the chat. I got 2 books. Ollie, Matt, you guys can hang out.
Sure.
Or you guys.
Sure. Yeah, I want to see
It's up to you.
Can we win it?
How do you want to enter in these names? You want me to enter in these names? How do you want to do those?
Let's, if you like, I will pay attention to the chat. And let's say #comics in chaos. All right. Will that be the mantra we're looking for there, Theo?
Sure, let's do that. And then
spend $1,000 at Elite Comics right now.
Right now. Everybody has to go sign up for an unlimited membership for 1 year. And
and then
I got 2 books. Okay, it'll be shipping on me. I got a Berserker #1 version. One of my exclusives that I did. I also have a Thanos Death Notes #1. It's a one-shot by Ken Lashley. Nice Wolverine 1 homage, first appearance of the Black Infinity Stone. So it's pretty cool. Phil, how do you want to select the winners?
I am going to pull up Prize
usually
Wheel
we do random.org.
And I'm going to start. I'm using Prize Wheel, so I'm already here. So you guys are stuck with that.
Okay, cool. Cool.
So let me start to pull names, and you guys just Thea, why don't you take a look at a couple of the questions that were still left? Anybody actually just put Comics in Chaos, #Comics in Chaos in the chat. We will enter you. You've got about 5 minutes while Theo asks one more additional question of our gentleman here, and we'll get going.
How about historical values of books, being able to see possible trends? I think that was a question for CovrPrice.
Probably. So we are implementing like a graph system so you can see the highs and lows visually. So our historical goes back, I don't know. I mean, we do go back pretty far for some books, but a lot of the bulk of it popped up when we started actually building the site, which was 2016. So historically, we don't go too much further back than that. But did anything matter pre-2016? Probably not, right? I mean, everything is we're all about what's valuable today, but it is nice to see where books came from. One thing we do want to add is to specifically point out what caused those bumps. So like if there was a Deadpool trailer, you would see at the high, it would be like, oh, this was the Deadpool trailer at the top of that graph. So you could kind of specifically point out what caused the fluctuations.
And then I got kind of a similar question for you, Ali. Any thoughts in the future of possibly doing recorded sales like data?
Yeah, I mean, other than the time element, I mean, it's something I'll definitely be thinking about. It's there's 2 sides to it. A lot of people, they get really good deals on our platform, and they kind of want it to be their good deal and not like a reported good deal. So
they don't want to kill their value.
Yeah,
and so, I can respect that.
That is, I mean, as a collector, oh, I got a really good deal on eBay. All right, it's going straight to GPA.
Right.
So that's it's a little more complicated than because again, it's you're trying to make the biggest amount of people happy. And so the feedback I've gotten is people really enjoy that aspect, but I also understand the want for information. So.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, we've noticed that, I mean, the bulk of our users, I want to say like 99% of our users probably don't sell, but everyone is tuned into what they want to know what they're selling for. It's unique. Like we always talk about, like, if you look at our top 10, people will point out like, this only sold like 40 copies in on online sources. I'm like, yeah, because most people don't sell their copies. Like it only takes 5 sales to completely change the market for a book, so most people aren't selling, but to your point, I don't think it hurts to show what these books are trending for. It just sets things at a realistic level, right? And maybe it gives the next person a shot to get into that book, especially if that person was buying it to hold. Why do they care of that sale being reported or not? Because if that gives another person a shot at buying it at a price they liked, unless they want to flip it for $1,000 more, then that's a different story.
Yeah. On our page, we're definitely the context is people that are selling, which a lot of collectors never sell, but the ones that we're talking about, they obviously have decided to sell, and a lot of them, and this would also include our dealers. Like, we have dealers, they're comic stores, and they definitely are sellers more than collectors. So.
Yep.
All right. That said, guys, I've got the picker wheel all set here. So let me present.
Last call outs, guys, for the giveaway before we draw the winner.
Last call outs. Hashtag Comics and Chaos. Let's see here.
Do like 10 seconds for lag, and then I think we're good to go.
17 entrants.
I got this guy right next to me.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow.
Is that the one in 1,000?
Unsigned one?
Yeah, the unsigned. Yeah, I picked up that.
You're showing me that
around. You do this live, okay?
Yeah.
You're gonna. Sorry, are you selling that to me now, Matt?
No. They blew them out at like pretty cheap on their site like not too long ago, and it's like you can't not buy it.
Yeah, and
right,
right now,
actually,
I'm actually working on a trade right now with somebody who has a 9.8 of that signed by Keanu Reeves.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I really hope he does it. We'll see.
You should.
All right, I got one more entry here.
That's got to be a hold for you, Theo, right?
That's mine. That'll go like on a mount one day, and everyone will get to stare at it.
I thought that was you on the cover the whole time, Theo. You learn something new every day.
He's gonna tape his face over over Keanu Reeves.
All right, we have 20 entrants, and we are go. How many are we just doing one here, Theo? One winner.
I'll tell you what, we'll do. Can you select 2 winners?
I can select one, and then we'll spin again.
Okay, then we'll do this for the first one.
All right, for the first book.
Let's see. Well, this is recorded. I was going to say I need a pen, but this is recorded. So
this is recorded. We're good. It is recorded. And the winner is Swagmaster.
Nice.
Swagmaster, congratulations.
You win the first one. All right, so congratulations to Swagmaster. And because somebody just joined in here real quick, I'm going to add in Blue Lantern 27.
Okay. Premium Comics, what's up, bro? How are you? A lot of good people in the chat tonight, per usual.
And up next. All right. Here we go. Last but not least, Kenwill.
Congratulations. So, okay, guys. So Rage Theo on Instagram, send me a DM. I'll get your shipping information, and I will get that out as soon as possible. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, everybody. And again, thank you to everybody who came out tonight. And please, a round of applause for our guests, Matt with CovrPrice and Ollie with Elite Comics 11. Everybody, give them these guys some applause. They do great work in our community. They make what is special about comics everyday occurrences. So make sure you guys are checking out CovrPrice.com. You're checking out Elite Comics 11 on Instagram. Give them a follow. Check out the site, and thank you guys so much for joining us. Theo, I'll let you take everybody home and say the last goodbyes and the special 3 words we like to say at the end of every show.
Okay, again, guys, we appreciate you very much. Matt, much respect for Ollie. I know we'll be talking soon. Guys, please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Okay, if you guys are in the chat right now, make sure you're following us. I think we broke 300 subs. We've been on here for about a month now, right?
Yep.
Guys, we can't do this without all of you, so I greatly appreciate that. Yeah, everyone in here, good night. I appreciate you guys. Vin, thanks for being mod per usual. Janny, thank you. Desired, always a pleasure. Guys, we'll see you next week.
See you then.